checks. How do you pay these guys?
Straight cash, homie.
Welcome to week 1 of college football and a new show called Straight Cash Homie. And you might guess, if you're a NFL fan from maybe 10 years ago or so, that's a famous quote by Randy Moss when asked how is he going to pay his $10,000 fine for fake mooning a Green Bay Packers crowd after a touchdown. He's going to pay with straight cash, homie.
Straight cash,
and
homie.
that is what I'm hoping to bring you this football season for college football only. Every week, I'm going to pick 5 games against the spread that I have done a lot of research on and giving you expert level advice on how to win some money each week gambling on college football. Now, we all know there's plenty of legal places to gamble on college football, most notably Las Vegas. I'm sure all you have a bookie. I'm not going to make any judgments if you go see a bookie for your bets, but I will say this. It is very difficult for anyone in the world to go over 60%. That means you got to get 3 out of every 5 games right to win money gambling on football because you pay the 10% vig. So my goal this season is to get above 60%, which would put me as one of the greatest handicappers living on earth. So a lot of high hopes this year for my picks in Straight Cash Homie. We're going to come to you either every Friday or Thursday throughout the football season, give you the picks, 5 games against the spread that you can go out and rush and bet against and ideally make some money. So we're hoping the Vegas lines won't change once I give my picks. They often do, of course, since I'm such an expert. Kind of kidding there. I want to get into our first game. I am picking Northwestern and Western Michigan. Now, the spread in this game is the spread in this game is only 5 points. Northwestern is favored by 5 points at home in Ryan Field. This is against a Western Michigan team that lost to Georgia Southern last year. They lost to Georgia Southern in the early on in the season. Lost to Michigan State last year by 13 points in the opener. Georgia Southern, as I mentioned, and also lost by 26 points to Ohio State. Now, they jumped back and had a nice season going 8-5 as well as 6-2 in the MAC, but I was very unimpressed on how ill-prepared Western Michigan looked in the early on season last year. And the opposite of that, I was very impressed in how Northwestern looked again in the early game last year, beating Stanford 16-6 last year, a Stanford team that would go on to go 12-2, win the Pac-12, finish number 5 in the country when the preseason or the final season polls were ending, putting them just outside the playoff. So my pick for this game, Northwestern, 5 points at home. My pick is to take Northwestern. They're going to win by a touchdown or more. 8 points. I've got them winning 28-20. So if you're betting this game, it's Northwestern. It's going to be a close game. Western Michigan is a resurgent program. I like what I've seen out of Northwestern, but there is no way Northwestern is going to lose this game. They'll be up by 2 touchdowns most of the second half. Look for Western Michigan to keep it close, maybe get within a touchdown or so, as I said, late. But if you want to make money in this game, it is Northwestern all the way. I love what they're doing under 10th-year coach Pat Fitzgerald. 10 wins in the Big Ten net last year, going up against a Western Michigan team that, although they're on the rise, I just don't see them being able to compete that closely to get within 5 points against Northwestern this Saturday in Chicago. So that's game 1. If you're out there, make the bet on Northwestern. Let's go on to our next pick of the week. We have the Oklahoma Sooners versus the Houston Cougars. Now, this game is a true neutral game. It is being played in Houston, at NRG Stadium. So technically, Houston is the home team, although it is being played in an NFL stadium. So here's what I like about both teams. One is Oklahoma last year scored 30 or more points in 11 of their 13 games. So basically every time they won a game, they've scored more than 30. And after a few kind of struggles in the early part of the year, including an overtime win against Tennessee where they could have lost that game, they just went on a roll, scoring 52, 44. A loss to Texas, only scored 17, then 55, 63, 62 points, 52 points, 44 points, and then in a 1-point win against TCU towards the end of the season, scoring 30, which was their season low for any game that they won. So what I like in this game is I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair for the Oklahoma Sooners, but I also think Houston's going to be able to put up a lot of points against Oklahoma's defense. Greg Ward returning, kind of a guy who jumped onto the national scene last year under first-year head coach at Houston, really came into his own, had a lot of talent around him for the Houston Cougars. So it's a very big spread, 11.5 points Oklahoma's favored by. Now, this is an Oklahoma team that almost everyone has winning the Big 12. Maybe the only team people are picking to win the Big 12. A lot of people have them being in the playoff, but Houston had 12 wins last year as well. This is going to be a very high-scoring game, a very close game. My pick, Oklahoma wins the game, but if you're gambling, you're gonna take that 11 points all day, and you're gonna take Houston. So Oklahoma's gonna win, Houston's gonna cover in this game. So that's what we're going with that one. On to our next game. Before we go to our next game, we were going to take a quick commercial break. I will ask you to ask me for betting advice in comments. We're live here on Facebook from San Francisco, so ask us some questions in comments. And after this break, we'll get to those and pick our other 3 games. So stay with us. Thanks for sticking with us. So to recap what you missed, I'm picking Northwestern 5-point favorite over Western Michigan. Northwestern's at home. They're going to win that game by more than 5 points. I've got them winning 28-20. And then I picked Houston to cover the 11-point spread that they're getting 11.5 points to Oklahoma. Oklahoma will win the game, but it's going to be close, around 42, 39, 44, 41 in that range. So those are your first two picks. Lay the points with Northwestern. Take the points with Houston. On to my guiding principles of betting. Now, before we go into our last 3 games, I want to kind of tell everybody what I think about when I'm picking a game. Not just a game, but more of a philosophy in betting. So, number 1 is early in the season, you see those big spreads, Ohio State or a team like Alabama perhaps, or a team like Auburn or Florida or Michigan, or sometimes favored by as much as 40 or 50 points. I love betting those games. And the reason is the head coaches of those teams, they get out to big leads. Usually they play great defense against these cupcake teams. The cupcake teams don't score much against the big favorites, and the big favorites get out to these huge leads early, put in their backups, and usually they don't just sit on the ball because they want to get their backups a lot of reps, especially on offense, so they continue to try and score in the second half. So if you see a spread of 28, 35, 44 points, and it's a traditional power ranked in the top 15, and you like their offense, bet them all day. I love traditional powers with strong offenses in these cupcake early season games. Guiding principle number 2, double-digit home underdogs are your gold mine. If you see a team that is underdog at home, at their own home field by more than 10 points, bet them all day. I don't care who their opponent is. Double-digit home underdogs are gold. They cover at the highest rate of any other trend I've ever seen. I bet them all the time. Double-digit home dogs, bet them. That's my guiding principle there. Guiding principle number 3, big name teams, the traditional powers that have huge fan bases. I'm talking Texas, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Florida, USC. These schools, in years they're having excellent seasons, don't do well against the spread once they get into the conference season. And the reason for that is the bookies, the gambling lines are set so their fans will continue to bet on them. And often the lines continue to go higher. So you see lines that are inflated, And you don't always see these teams being able to cover those lines in conference season. So if you see an Ohio State favored by 25 or 24 against Illinois, or a team like Alabama favored by 17 over Arkansas, bet the underdog in those bets against the traditional powers. And the last guiding principle, don't be fooled by close spreads on the road. Often it's for a reason. So you might say, wow, Texas is only, Notre Dame was only a 3-point favorite on the road versus Texas. Of course I'm going to bet Notre Dame. They're going to kill Texas. Not so fast. Vegas makes those lines for a reason. They actually probably think Texas is going to keep it close or has a chance to win, so they make the line a fool's gold line because they want people to bet on Notre Dame so they can cash in if they think Texas is going to win. If Las Vegas thought that the game wanted to be bet evenly, they'd probably make it about a Notre Dame 7 to 10 point spread. So don't be fooled when you see a team on the road and it's a small line. So you might see in Alabama, they might be on the road against an SEC team only favored by 6, 7, 8, 10 points when you think they're 3 touchdowns better than them. Those games are close. Look at previous year's history. You'll see a lot of close scores once you get into conference games, especially when teams go on the road, is where the opportunities are for a big favorite to lose a game or for them to eke out a win against a spread. So don't go betting Alabama when they're a 4-point favorite on the road against, let's just say, a Tennessee. I don't have that schedule in front of me at the moment, but you get my drift. All right. On to the next picks. We've got 3 more games. Next up is Texas A&M Saturday, 3-point favorite hosting UCLA. Now, this is an interesting game. These are 2 programs that are little brothers to an in-state power, and in UCLA's case, a crosstown rival looking to get outside their shadow. So what I like about these teams, I like Josh Rosen a ton at UCLA. I think he's going to be the #1 pick in the draft, a year and a half from now in 2018. He exploded onto the scene last year as a freshman, leading a phenomenal UCLA offense. And go over to the Texas A&M side. They've got a great defensive team. They've got Myles Garrett, maybe one of the top picks in the draft this year. But I don't like what I've seen from Texas A&M the last 2 seasons under Kevin Sumlin. I think Sumlin's under the hot seat. I think it's going to be very tough for him to keep his job after this year. I don't like their quarterback, Trevor Knight. He couldn't get the job done in Oklahoma. I see UCLA coming into this game, winning 31-21. Not only covering the 3-point that they're getting, they're going to win the game outright. So James's pick on this one, UCLA wins 31-21, covers and wins outright. So you don't see that often, an underdog winning outright. That's my pick for this one. So get out there and put some money on UCLA to go into College Station and beat Texas A&M outright. You heard it here first, folks. All right, next game, Jerry World, Saturday night. We've got Alabama as a big favorite over USC. What's to expect there? Well, I'm going to tell you, 4 years ago, I went to that same game where Alabama was favored by 8 or 9 points against Michigan, and they rocked their world. And so I'm sticking with my preseason prediction of Alabama going to the national championship game and really having a banner season. This is a team that has more NFL level talent than any team in the country. And my guiding principle to betting that I didn't talk about is never bet against Alabama in any circumstances, especially early in the year and late in the year. If you're going to bet them in a bowl game, an SEC championship game, or one of the first 2 or 3 games of the season, they are going to cover the spread as well as anybody in the country. I don't see this game being any differently. My pick for this game, Alabama is going to cover the 12.5-point spread and beat USC 31-14 in Dallas Saturday night. So, on to my 5th pick. This is a pick that is just it's a gut pick on this one. I don't have any empirical evidence, although I do look at Urban Meyer's history as a coach in early season games, and he is an excellent coach, and he runs up the score. So, Ohio State, a 28-point favorite at home against Bowling Green. Now, Urban Meyer started his head coaching career in 2001 and 2002 at Bowling Green. He's going to face his old team. I'm sure there'll be some emotions mixed in there, but I think back to the 2014 season under JT Barrett. they started off with two tough games in Navy and Virginia Tech. Lost one of those two. Ohio State did in 2014 with Barrett starting in his first couple of games as a quarterback. But once he got his groove going, his next 3 games, Kent State, Cincinnati, and Maryland, 3 relative cream puffs, similar to Bowling Green in that sense. Not going to give Ohio State a game. They dropped 66, 50, and 52 points in those next 3 games once Barrett got his feet underneath him. He's back. He started the last few games of last year, lost that one against Michigan State, which was a very surprising loss to a lot of people, kept Ohio State out of the college football playoff. But back this year, as starting quarterback, unquestioned starting quarterback for the Buckeyes. I have Ohio State rolling in this one. 55-10, Ohio State is going to destroy Bowling Green. And I've said J.T. Barrett is my Heisman Trophy pick this year. I'm sticking to that pick, and I like Urban Meyer going out there. They've lost a lot of talent. I'm looking at the stats here. Ohio State only has only 6 starters returning. 6 starters. That means they've lost 16 guys. I think they have a lot to prove. I think they're sick of the Michigan hype, and I think they're going to make a statement game. Barrett's going to make a statement game saying, this is my team. I'm back. Forget about Cardale Jones. He's gone. He's on to the NFL. This is my team, and J.T. Barrett, I'm going to see him throw for 350 yards, 5 touchdowns in the first half alone, and Ohio State is going to roll Bowling Green this Saturday in Columbus. So let's talk about my picks all in if you missed them. So number 1, I had Northwestern get the 5 points over Western Michigan. We made a quick error there, so I'll have to blame myself. I put this graphic together earlier. Maybe we can change it on the fly, but Oklahoma's going to win that game versus Houston, but I've actually got Houston covering the spread. So ignore that graphic for the moment. Houston's going to lose the game, but they're going to cover that 11.5 point spread. UCLA is going to go into Texas A&M. Not only are they going to get, they're receiving 3 points, not only are they going to cover that spread, they're going to win the game outright. So I've got UCLA as an underdog winning the game, and then 2 favorites there to end it. I've got Alabama, 12.5 points, giving 12.5 points. They're going to blow out USC. Ohio State, only a 28-point spread. Oh, man, they are 7 touchdowns better than Bowling Green. So the picks, once again, are, ignore the graphic for a second. It's Northwestern, Houston, UCLA, Alabama, Ohio State, picking 3 favorites, 2 underdogs in this game, and one of those underdogs wins outright. So I'll say it one more time. Northwestern, UCLA, Houston, Alabama, Ohio State. Yeah, so that's my picks. Well, that is all for us this week on Straight Cash Homie with James Yoder. We will be back next week for 5 more picks. We'll see if I can go 4-1 or 5-0 versus the spread this week. I'm thinking I can. Get out there, call your bookies now, get to Vegas, make some picks on these bets. For all your stats, scores, and live play-by-play, how to follow these games, how to follow all the training stories, this is how I keep up with all the games I'm betting each week. Download the Chat Sports app at chatsports.com/app. I'm James Yoder, and this has been Straight Cash Homie. We'll see you next week.
If you don't write checks, how do you pay these guys?
Straight cash, homie.